My ex wanted me to take her new husband's kids on family adventures because they were jealous of my children. When I refused, she tried to turn my own kids against me. Hello, Reddit I, plus here. I never imagined I'd be sitting here asking strangers on the internet whether I'd somehow become the villain for being a good dad. That's honestly what this has turned into. According to my ex-wife, my parents, and apparently half of her side of the family, I'm selfish, petty, and weaponizing my success as a parent. My crime. I refuse to spend my weekends, my money, and my time entertaining children who have absolutely no relationship to me. The more the situation escalates, the more I feel like I'm losing my mind, so I need outside opinions. I'm 45. My ex-wife is 42. We were married for nearly 15 years before divorcing a little over 5 years ago. Our marriage didn't explode because of one dramatic event. It died slowly. She became obsessed with creating the picture-perfect family everyone saw on social media. Every vacation had to look flawless. Every birthday needed professional decorations. Every holiday required matching outfits and staged photos. Behind those pictures, though, we barely spoke. When we did, it usually ended in arguments about money. I worked long hours running a construction company that I'd spent almost a decade building. She insisted we needed a bigger house, a newer SUV, private lessons for the kids, designer furniture, weekend getaways. Everything had to look successful. I kept telling her we were living beyond our means. She kept telling me appearances mattered. Eventually, appearances became more important than the marriage itself. By the end, we weren't partners anymore. We were roommates who happened to share two wonderful children. Our son was 7. Our daughter was 5. When we divorced, I promised myself one thing. No matter how painful the divorce became, my kids would never question whether their father loved them. That promise has guided every decision I've made since. Our custody arrangement actually worked out pretty well. Because I live in one of the better school districts nearby, the kids spend the school year with me during the week. Their mother has them 3 weekends every month. During summer break, we split things almost evenly. For the first year after the divorce, everything was surprisingly civil. Then she met someone. Within 18 months, she remarried. That alone didn't bother me. She deserved to move on. I had no issue with that. What surprised me was how quickly everything changed. Her new husband came into the marriage with 2 children, a 15-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter. Less than 2 years later, they had twin boys together. So overnight, my children went from living in a quiet home with 2 parents to spending weekends inside a house with 6 children. At first, they tried convincing me everything was fine. Kids are incredibly loyal, especially when they think telling the truth might hurt someone's feelings. My son would shrug. It's okay. My daughter would smile. It's fun. But children always tell the truth eventually, usually when they stop realizing they're telling it. One evening, while we were making homemade pizza together, my daughter casually asked, "Dad, do you ever forget I'm here?" I laughed. Never. She looked confused. Mom forgets sometimes. My heart stopped. What do you mean? She shrugged like she was talking about the weather. Sometimes I wait a really long time before she remembers she said she'd play with me. I didn't know what to say. A few weeks later, my son admitted he usually stayed in his room whenever he visited their mom. Not because he was grounded, not because he wanted privacy, because there simply wasn't anywhere else to go. The twins cried constantly. The older kids argued nonstop. The television was always blasting cartoons. His mom was always cooking, cleaning, breaking up fights, changing diapers, or putting someone to bed. He said something I'll never forget. "Dad, it doesn't feel like Mom's house anymore." That sentence broke me, not because I blame my ex, because I knew exactly what he meant. Home isn't a building. It's the place where you feel seen. My kids no longer felt seen there, so I decided to create something that belonged only to us. One weekend every month. No phones, no work, no distractions. Adventure weekend. Sometimes we'd hike waterfalls. Sometimes we'd rent bicycles. Sometimes we'd visit museums. Sometimes we'd camp beneath the stars. Sometimes we'd drive 2 hours just to eat at a famous barbecue place we'd seen online. Sometimes we'd spend almost nothing. Other times we'd splurge on baseball games or amusement parks. The activity didn't matter. The tradition did. Every month we'd spread maps across the dining room table. Everyone got ideas. Everyone voted. Everyone participated. It became the highlight of our month until my ex found out. It started with a simple phone call. She sounded unusually cheerful. "I've got a favor." Whenever someone starts a sentence like that, you already know you're about to lose. She explained that her stepchildren had become jealous. Apparently, my kids talked excitedly about our trips every Sunday night. The older 2 listened quietly. The twins obviously didn't understand. Her stepdaughter eventually asked why their other dad never took them anywhere. That sentence alone should have been enough for my ex to realize she needed to have a conversation with the actual parents responsible. Instead, she called me. "So," she hesitated, Would you ever consider bringing the older two with you? I laughed, not to be rude. I honestly thought she was joking. She wasn't. I mean, they already know your kids. No. It would only be every now and then. No. They're really good kids. I'm sure they are. They're feeling left out. I'm sorry they feel that way. You could really help. I won't. There was a long silence. Then her voice changed. You've always been selfish. Interesting, because 5 minutes earlier, I was apparently generous enough to finance family outings for children I'd met twice. Now I was selfish. She told me they couldn't afford expensive trips. That wasn't true. I know exactly what her husband earns. He works in commercial real estate. Combined, they make more than enough to take their children places. The problem wasn't money, it was logistics. Handling 6 children is exhausting. I agreed with that. Then I reminded her. Nobody forced them to build a household with 6 children. She became defensive. They're all siblings now. No, they're family. They're your family. She didn't like that distinction. Then came the guilt. They cry when your kids leave. I stayed quiet. They ask why you're not their dad too. Still quiet. They feel rejected. Finally, I said, they're feeling rejected by the wrong person. She immediately knew what I meant. If her children felt neglected, right? That wasn't because I refused to entertain them. It was because the 2 adults raising them weren't making enough individual time for them. She exploded. You think you're father of the year because you only have 2 kids? Actually, no. I think I'm a decent father because I make my children feel important. There's a difference. For nearly 20 minutes, she listed reasons why I should help. Bonding, compassion, fairness, kindness, community, family. I listened patiently. Then I asked one question. When's the last time you and your husband took all 6 kids somewhere together? Silence. When's the last time you took just the older 4 somewhere? Silence. When's the last time you spent one full afternoon alone with our daughter? More silence. She hung up. I assumed that was the end of it. I was wrong. A few days later, my kids came home acting strangely. They barely talked during dinner. Finally, my son spoke. Mom says you don't like our stepbrother and stepsister. I nearly dropped my fork. What? He nodded. She said they wanted to come with us, but you said they weren't good enough. I felt sick. I never said anything remotely close to that. Then my daughter quietly added, she said families share. That crossed a line. I immediately called my ex. She denied saying exactly those words. Then admitted she'd told the kids I didn't want the others around. Apparently, she thought that was somehow different. I told her never to involve our children in adult disagreements again. She accused me of overreacting. Things only got worse. The following weekend, my son forgot his backpack at her house. When I went to pick it up, her stepdaughter opened the front door before anyone else could answer. She smiled. Then she asked the saddest question I've heard in years. Are we going to the zoo this weekend? She genuinely believed she was invited. Someone had convinced that little girl she was coming. I looked past her. My ex was standing in the hallway. She wasn't surprised. She actually smiled. Like she'd planned this? She thought putting me in front of a hopeful child would guilt me into saying yes. I couldn't believe it. I knelt down and gently told the girl, I'm sorry, sweetheart. This weekend is something I planned with my kids. She looked crushed. Not because of anything I'd done, because someone had lied to her. As I walked back to my truck, I heard her crying inside the house. Then I heard my ex shouting my name. I kept walking. That night, she flooded my phone with messages. She called me heartless. She said I'd humiliated a child. She claimed I'd destroyed their trust. No, she did. She created an expectation that never existed, then blamed me when reality showed up. A week later, her husband called for the first time. He actually apologized for the misunderstanding. For about 30 seconds, I thought maybe we'd finally have an adult conversation. Then he asked if I'd at least consider taking the older 2 because they don't ask for much. I told him exactly what I'd told my ex. I am responsible for creating memories with my children, not raising yours. He sighed. I thought maybe you'd understand. I do understand. What? That parenting 6 kids is difficult. So help us. No. He hung up. Since then, my ex's parents have been calling. Apparently, I'm dividing the children. Apparently, I'm showing favoritism. Apparently, I'm teaching selfishness. Meanwhile, nobody seems interested in asking why 2 capable adults can't organize one family outing every month. Last weekend, my daughter hugged me before bed and whispered, "Promise adventure weekend never stops." I hugged her tighter than I ever have. It won't. Because someday, these weekends will become photographs, stories, inside jokes, memories they'll tell their own children. Those moments are precious. They're limited. And I refuse to sacrifice them because my ex believes the consequences of the family she chose should somehow become my responsibility. So, am I actually the jerk here? Or is my ex trying to outsource the hardest parts of parenting while pretending she's asking for a simple favor?